Zack Nagy joins us to do so. Does a great job covering the LSU Tigers over on SI. Zack, we appreciate the time. Thanks for hopping on with us.
Yeah, my man. How's it going on y'all's end?
Going great. And look, for LSU fans, I'm sure they're pretty happy this morning as well. Lamar Brown from U High. There was, speculation kind of leading into it. Is it going to be A&M? Is it going to be LSU? And Zack, you certainly seen this play out as well. You don't know sometimes with local guys. Like, a lot of people feel like you have a massive advantage, and sometimes you do, and sometimes it's the complete opposite because maybe they want to go somewhere else. Maybe they don't want to stay close to home. But this is a huge get for LSU.
Yeah, and I think a huge get is kind of an understatement. This is a guy who, in my opinion, man, is kind of a unicorn, a two-way athlete in the trenches that can really play either side of the ball he wants at the next level. And to go out and secure him and really reel him away from Texas A&M at the buzzer is a big one for this team and really shows the recruiting efforts and the new era that this quote-unquote front office of Austin Thomas and company are really starting to put together. They're doing a fantastic job. They're locking down the Bayou State, of course, right now. And it's been an impressive haul so far in the 2026 class. So to add Lamar Brown to that is a tremendous get, like you alluded to. And I think they're really starting to dominate this haul so far.
Yeah, when you look at Brown and Anderson now in this class and both committed to you, both, Louisiana guys. So I know it's not over until it's over. You're not going to, really maybe celebrate till you get to the finish line. They signed and all of that, but they feel incredibly solid right now to LSU. And if it does end up happening, we were talking about it earlier, like when LSU has been its most dominant, it's had guys like this up front. And so this feels like a pair that with LSU and where they're currently at on their defensive line could probably come in and play as true freshmen and play right away.
Yeah, no doubt. And you add those two guys alongside Trenton Henderson, the number one edge from the Sunshine State, and you're looking at a haul down in the trenches that's fantastic. Those are three guys that have five-star caliber status on whichever recruiting site you want to use. These are guys that can come in and make an instant impact, like you said right there, and it really shows the recruiting efforts of edge rushers coach Kevin Peoples here. He's starting to lock things down and become more of a savvy recruiter on the trail. He's got three big-time names already pledged, and he's looking to add more. I don't think he's done just yet. So you could see a fantastic haul in the 2026 class moving forward. Like you said, whenever LSU's been dominant, they've had guys in the trenches that can really handle business, and now you're looking at the number one defensive lineman in the country in Richard Anderson from Edna Carr pledged to the program. You got Lamar Brown pledged too, who has intentions of playing defense too, despite being the number one athlete in the country. And then you got a number one edge in Florida in Trenton Henderson committed. So the haul so far has been fantastic. The future's bright down there on the defensive line. And you got to give Kevin Peoples his flowers, man. He's been doing a fantastic job, and I'm excited to see how he continues moving forward with it.
Yeah, Zach, let's flip over to the other side of the ball. And I want to ask you about the most important position on the field at quarterback. Now, LSU has kind of whiffed and missed on Bo Bentley, then again, Bryson Beaver. What does LSU do in this recruiting class at the quarterback position, and what's your opinion on everything leading up to this point?
Yeah, I think that's the million-dollar question, right? Everybody wants to see what type of signal caller they could try to bring in the 2026 class. Do they hit the portal once again? So that's the one that everybody wants. And for me, I think you've seen all the success that this program's had in the transfer portal, right? Whether it's Burrow, Jaden Daniels, et cetera. We know that in this new era of college football, you can go out in the portal and get your kind of franchise guys. So I'm not quite sitting here and saying they need to go get somebody in the 2026 class, but certainly whiffing on Bo Bentley is a big-time miss for this program just because he's really starting to hit his stride on the prep scene. This is a guy who's been a fast riser in the recruiting rankings, a guy who had a ton of interest, a ton of offers, ultimately trimmed his list, obviously, to LSU, Oklahoma down the stretch. So to miss out on Bo is a big-time miss for this team and this program so far. But obviously fall brings the flip season, right? You can continue to attack players and see if you can turn up the heat on whoever you want there. But if you try not to do that and you decide to kind of shift focus to the transfer portal, we know what Joe Sloan can do on the recruiting scene. This is one of the savviest recruiters in college football. And I think if you need to hit the portal, which all signs would point towards them doing that, I think you could go out and get a guy who can make an impact if need be.
Yeah, Zach, I mean, forever the kind of the rule of thumb on the big colleges recruiting was take a quarterback out of high school every single year. You got to take one because you got to have people in that room. You never know who's going to hit. You never know who's going to transfer, whatever. Do you put as much emphasis, like you personally, do you put as much emphasis on that in this day and age with the NIL and the transfer portal, taking a quarterback out of high school every year with that kind of safety net that you have that you can always go in the NIL?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think, no, it's not as important anymore to go out and get a quarterback in your transfer portal class each year, or in your recruiting class each year. You can go out into the portal and go get an instant impact player if you need to. And I think a lot of people obviously are sitting back and wanting to go get a 2026 signal caller, but people are forgetting you went out and got Michael Van Buren from the transfer portal last offseason rather. So to make that kind of falling behind and people are kind of losing focus on that is something that definitely blows my mind a little bit. This is a guy who started as a true freshman in the SEC, put up a fantastic game against Georgia on a really kind of struggling Mississippi State team with a lack of weapons. So we know LSU always has weapons on the outside. I'd like to give Michael Van Buren a little bit of a chance as well, too. Just a guy who's a youngster and has a bright future in the game, of course. But like you were saying, if you need to hit the portal, which you're likely going to do, I think they're going to do that and move forward. It's something that I'm intrigued to see unfold this fall.
So, Zach, when you look at this class, it does have, a lot of positions kind of taken care of right now if you can hold on, get to the finish line like we talked about. But where do you think LSU needs to continue to work? They need to add. Is quarterback maybe now priority number one, or is there somewhere else?
Yeah, I think quarterback's obviously going to be one that you see them try to intensify a flip pursuit this fall. But the wide receiver room is one that you just got to hold on to, man. You got Tristan Keys, the number one wideout in America, pledged to your team. You got Jabari Mack, Kenny Darby. Those two guys have shut down their process and said that they're going to make their way to Rouge. But the one that you got to keep pushing for is Tristan Keys, a guy who's really, really had interest from every school in the country for good reason, taking his fair share of visits to Tennessee, A&M, Miami, etc. So LSU's really going to have to keep their foot on the gas here. This is one that you kind of have got to get that must-have. You got to make his way to campus. And they're also not done at that wide receiver position. You're going to see them try to turn up the heat for Jace Matthews, one of the top wideouts in Mississippi as well. The goal for this program is to get 4 wide receivers in the class. They've got 3 committed. And so moving forward, kind of that need for this team is to, A, keep Tristan Keys in the class, and B, go out and get another receiver to add to that embarrassment of riches that you got at the wideout position. I think this fall is going to bring a lot of twists and turns. It's going to be exciting to see how this staff navigates it.
Yeah, we about 10, 15 years ago, kind of LSU coined the phrase DBU, and it's been more like wide receiver U recently in the recent history at the LSU program with a lot of success. You just talked about the wide receivers, but talk about secondary, corner, safety, any commitments that we have, any people on the radar. How is that class shaping up, and are we going to be able to see us kind of get back to that DBU status?
Yeah, Corey Raymond is a recruiting guru, and I think the whole world knows that. This is a guy who gets what he wants. We saw him do it in the 2025 cycle with DJ Pickett, and this is a 6'4", 190-pound menace, a guy who's really ready to make an instant impact in year one. And so he's proven that he's willing to do what he can to bring back that DBU catchphrase, of course, and now you're starting to see him do it in the 2026 class as well. Go out to the West Coast and get Haven Finney Jr. is one that definitely needs a little bit more of attention. I think it's getting swept under the rug a little bit. As the top 10 cornerback in the country, a player who was a top cornerback in the 2027 cycle before reclassing and moving up to a senior year and going into the 2026 class. So Haven Finney's a guy that can come in and help bring back that DBU kind of culture in Baton Rouge. And then you got Isaiah Washington, a player that I want to talk about too, man. He's special. He's a guy who's going to come in being recruited as a defensive back. He's a two-way star on the prep scene. But I think you can see his recruiting ranking rise in the next update. This is a guy who has a ton of buzz, generating a ton of buzz within this coaching staff, a player that they wanted in the 2026 Hall, got him to shut things down on July 4th. And I think as he continues to evolve, I think this is a player that could be a big-time guy for the Tigers moving forward. So, yeah, a lot of people want to talk about wide receiver U right now, but obviously that DBU phrase is coming back. Corey Raymond's helped doing that. He's obviously the architect of it. And I think you're starting to see guys like Haven Finney, Isaiah Washington, et cetera, start to epitomize that moving forward.
As we look at the state of Louisiana, pretty much every top player, no matter what site you're looking at, the top 10 is already committed somewhere. A bulk of those are to LSU. You've got 3 or 4, depending on where you're looking, committed elsewhere. Is there anybody, Zach, in that group that you think LSU has an opportunity to maybe flip them and have them sign with the Tigers?
Yeah, I think when you look at that top 10 right now, I think the program's got, 7 or 8 of the top 10 players in Louisiana committed so far. The 2 kind of being Dylan Barramon and Blaine Bradford, of course, kind of that crown jewel, the defensive backfield. So I think Blaine Bradford has kind of shut things down for the most part when it comes to the Ohio State Buckeyes and being pledged that way. Obviously, one of the top players in America for a good reason. He's an absolute stud at a Catholic high. So for me, I think they're pretty much done in the top 10. I couldn't envision Barramon flipping to LSU. They got a ton of defensive linemen in this class. Yeah. But for me, when I'm looking at kind of the top 15, top 20 players in the state, Darius McKinley is a guy who kind of piques my interest as a player that LSU could land in this 2026 class. Obviously got some family ties to Dominic McKinley, former 5-star top player in the state. So for me, Darius McKinley is a guy that I kind of circle as one that could join this 2026 class if they continue to intensify that pursuit. Obviously a fantastic player. But when it comes to that top 10, Blaine Bradford has shown his intentions when it comes to Ohio State. And then Barramon's a guy that's obviously in a position that LSU's kind of loaded up in right now.
So a second ago, you brought up Corey Raymond and the impact and the kind of the recruiting guru that he is, the impact he has on the defensive backs. But I want to ask, with this recent success on the defensive line, what rumblings, any rumors that you've heard about the impact that the new hire of Kyle Williams has had on that recruiting? Because as a former teammate of his in a couple of different teams, I can tell you there's not a guy that's better at talking in a room one-on-one that you can feel his passion about what he does in the sport and is such a great motivator and a speaker to people. I have to believe that he has had a huge impact on the recruiting trail and a guy that these players, these high school kids want to come and play for.
Yeah, I think obviously Kevin Peoples is getting a ton of respect and flowers right now, as he should. He's dominating right now. But the 1-2 punch of him and Kyle Williams is one that needs to be getting more attention as well, like you alluded to there. For him to make the transition to being a college coach at LSU and maintaining the players on roster is something that's extremely important. That's recruiting efforts in itself to keep those guys committed and locked in with the program, like an Ahmad Bro, Dominic McKinley, et cetera. To keep them in Baton Rouge is a huge recruiting effort in itself. And then you pair him with Kevin Peoples in the recruiting scene on high school, and to keep Richard Anderson committed to the program. Go out and get guys like DeAnthony Lafayette, Lamar Brown, et cetera. The recruiting efforts that he's putting forth obviously is significant. I don't think it's getting enough attention, but that's a guy that commands the room when he walks in it. Obviously, that NFL pedigree, been around the block, been there, done that. Obviously, can talk to anybody, talk to a wall. This is a guy that knows what he's talking about, knows his stuff. When recruits hear him speak, they know that they're talking to a guru. So, yeah, I think Kevin Peoples is getting a ton of attention right now, rightfully so. But Kyle Williams is a guy that deserves that respect as well in the recruiting scene.
All right, there he is, Zack Nagy, good enough to join us and break it all down when it comes to LSU recruiting. Again, does a great job covering LSU for SI. Zack, we appreciate the time. Thanks for hopping on with us, and thanks for the insight.
Appreciate it, man. Y'all have a good one.